like the Ardmore up above the whiteboard. That's cool.
Surprised you can see it without the shine on my head, causing the reflection. May should put a hat on or something.
No, that's cool. I like well, like you can even see like the football laces on the top of it and
Yeah,
stuff. That's neat.
pretty cool.
Cool. That is cool. So you were before Ardmore,
Hmm.
you're a DC at Athens, right?
I was. I was a DC at Athens for 9 years or nine football seasons. And then I was a DC actually before that at Sparkman High School for several years before I came to Athens. So I spent 9 years at Sparkman, spent 9 years at Athens, and then came to Ardmore. Now just finished up the third year, about to start year four.
Okay. Why was Ardmore the head coaching jump for you? Why was it the job for you?
Well, it's my wife is from Ardmore, and we have lived when I coached at Sparkman and when I coached at Athens. We lived in the area, have gone to church in the area. Ardmore is one of those places where if you graduate from here, you never leave. And so, like her family, her parents, her grandparents, everybody went to Ardmore. And so it was one of those
Wow.
opportunities where, I mean, that wasn't just the reason, but I knew that my family would be very comfortable here. I knew that my kids, I have a rising sophomore and a rising fourth grader, and I knew that both of them, they'd always gone to school up this way through elementary school, and it's one of those things where everything fit, and it's not about being comfortable all the time, but it's also about sort of how you fit, how your family fits, can your family be involved, and
Yeah.
this is a place that we love, and trying to build it. But that's sort of how, and I'll be honest with you, years ago, I would have used this job as a stepping stone to something else. And it
Sure.
took me a while to figure out, where, where God places you, you're there for a reason. And, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And, my plan is to be here till my youngest graduates, which will be my ending my 30th year. And, that's my plans. I don't always get to choose those, but that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah. Are you from the area then too?
I grew up in the Shoals area. My
Okay.
dad was a head football coach at Lexington High School for a long time, and then he going into my freshman year, we moved to Muscle Shoals. He was the head football coach at Muscle Shoals for 5 or 6 years, and that's where I graduated
Okay.
high school from. And then he retired and went to Tennessee, and I went to University of Alabama, and so that's how we got to that point.
I gotcha. I was up there. What game was that? Was that the semi? It was the 6A quarterfinals, I guess. Where Clay Chalkwell was up there this
Hmm.
past November, and that was a cold, cold night. Yeah, I mean up there in Muscle Shoals, it gets cold. That's super cool stadium though. Like
Yeah, it's
it was
it's changed. Hey, it wasn't that cool when I was in school, so
no.
they've changed it a lot. Of course, we didn't win a whole lot. We won a little bit, but once you win, people tend to open their checkbooks up a little bit. So that helped.
Yeah, well, you could tell some checkbooks had been opened there. It was a really cool, nice place. I was looking at a map,
Hmm.
just like Google Maps. How close is Ardmore really to Tennessee? Like, it looks
It's
like
as,
it's like
it's as it's as
right
close
on
as
the
you think
line.
it is. Like I kid you not, I can stand out on my football stadium and throw a baseball and hit what we call Main Street, which is the split between Ardmore, Tennessee, and Ardmore, Alabama. So we have lotteries. We have a place where you can buy lottery tickets on one side of the road, and then on the other side of the road, because you can't in Alabama, like literally across the street from each other. I kid you not. So whatever you see on a map, it's exactly what you think it is on the map. Like it is. Now we
Wow.
have two different city offices. We have a mayor of Ardmore, Tennessee. We have a mayor of Ardmore, Alabama. The city limits of Ardmore, Tennessee are not very big, but those kids can come to school here. Everybody else would have to pay out of district, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's a very neat setup. But yeah, when you look at it on the map and you think, how close is it to Tennessee? It's that close. Like legitimately, it is a stone's throw from the state line.
So it's basically it sounds almost like one city that has a state line through it.
Yep,
Like
that's right.
that's
Yep.
wow.
And the further you go, whichever direction, the more you're traveling. The way the road runs. you get to one end of the road and everything's in Alabama because of how the state line runs, and if you go the
Yep.
other, both sides of the road are in Tennessee. So it's when you walk into you if you walk into a place and they sell lottery tickets and alcohol, you're in Tennessee. If not, you're in Alabama. So
You're back in
there you go.
Alabama. What's the I don't I've never been there. Like what's the lay of the land? What's popular in Ardmore, Alabama?
Hmm. Well, we just had a tractor pull this past weekend.
Love it. I'm
They
in.
said they had the most people they ever had. I did not attend because it was way too hot. Um, uh, let's see. Football's still pretty popular. We're
Yeah.
not very good at this time, but one thing we do have is a sense of community, and so a
Yeah.
lot of things still sort of shut down on Friday nights, and people come to football games, so that's good for us.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Other than there's really not a we got the Lincoln County Fair in Tennessee, which is about 20 minutes from us. So that's a
Yeah.
big deal, when that happens. Then you got Athens south of us. So we're sort of stuck I guess, still trying to figure out what exactly is popular. I could go
Yeah.
down the road if me and you were talking just face to face of what was really popular in Ardmore, but we'll
I could
keep it
guess.
we'll keep
I
it G
could
rated and move from there. But
I
no,
could take a
it's a
guess.
fun little town. I mean, we have
Yeah.
mom and pop restaurants. We have fast food chains that are here. So, we're fortunate to be right off the first exit as you enter Tennessee on
Yeah.
I-65. So, that generates a lot of people coming in and McDonald's, Hardee's, whatever it is. So, but it's a
Yeah.
nice place.
No, it's like everything you said sounds like how I would describe. I was out of college, my first job out of college, I was in McGee, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people would be like, "Where is that?" And I'm like, "Well, I know I went through Laurel, but it's like another hour and a half like west of that." I just started telling people it's halfway between Jackson and Hattiesburg, and
Mm-hmm.
then they were like, "Well, that's half the state. Like Jackson's in the middle, Hattiesburg's in the bottom." I'm like, "It's about 45 minutes one way, 45 to the other." And same kind of deal where it was on Highway 49,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of, like if you're in town, a lot of mom and pop. And if you're along the highway, a lot of Burger King, a lot of McDonald's, a lot of all of that kind of stuff because it's people heading to the coast. They're heading either to New Orleans or they're heading to Gulfport or something like that. So I understand that kind of town, and you've got to they kind of create their own fun because they'd have a tractor pull, there'd be stuff like that. And I've told people a lot, like that was my first job out of college, so I moved there when I was 22, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what is this? Like there's nothing, like this place is awful, and then when I was 32, I was like, I want to move back there now. Like it was, you appreciate things the older you get, and a place like that I could definitely live in now.
We are, we're 30 minutes from Huntsville. We're an hour and 15
Oh,
minutes from Nashville. We're an hour and 15 minutes from
wow.
Birmingham. We're maybe an hour from Florence. 15 minutes to Athens. So I mean, we're in a really really good location to get to really whatever you need to be in
Yeah,
a relatively short period of time. So it's a very neat setup.
yeah, that's a sweet spot. Let's talk ball.
All right.
So I know last year it looks like I'm looking at some season stuff. Last year, I know it didn't quite go the way I wanted to go, but just kind of from your standpoint, what did you see last year? What did you think about how the season, how it went, how it ended, that kind of thing?
Well, you never want to go 1-9. Um, and it's not about myself or whatever, but those kids, they work hard too hard to really that to be the outcome. But we lost 3 games by a total of 16 points.
Wow.
And so we had first game of the year we got beat by 9, and 2 region games we got beat by 2 points and 7 points respectively. And we felt like that early in the year we lost 2 games a week, the first week to West Limestone and then to Brewer week 3. We felt like if we won those two, the rest of the season could have possibly been different. We we only had 9 seniors last year. 7 of them played. Um, so we were really young. We started a freshman quarterback. We started 4 sophomore offensive linemen. So I mean, but you, as a coach, you don't ever use that as an excuse. But I'll tell you one thing: our kids they never quit, and I know that's a phrase that's thrown around, very cliche, but legitimately, like they never quit. We were not good enough as coaches to put them in good enough positions to where they could be successful. And then how it is with high school kids and anywhere, I guess. Once things start to roll the wrong way down the hill, it's hard to get it back. And
Sure.
you just hope they keep fighting. And I mean, and they did. And kudos to those seniors. There weren't many of them, but they tried to lead the best they could and still put their stamp on legacy here. We're trying to change the culture, and they were as big a part of changing it as our first year we went to the playoffs for the first time since 2013. As that group was, setting the foundation, they were as integral as anybody else, even though the wins and losses success was not there. So we feel like I think we ended the year, the last 2 games of the season, we returned 17 of the 22 starters that started those last 2 games. So I mean, I guess if you want to say the future looks bright, it does. The problem is that we're still young. The kids that started then were freshmen and sophomore. Now they're a year older,
Yeah.
but they still, most of them. We were looking out this morning at workouts, and our offensive line coach was like, "Well, we had another guard that just now turned 16. How many more we got till our offensive line can drive? So we're still looking at that, and but it's one of those where sometimes as coaches you just sort of got to hit the reset button and hey,
Yeah.
what we're doing may not be working for the kids that we have, so what can we do to help them be more successful? And that's sort of where we are now.
Yeah, some of that nature of high school football, it's cyclical, like some years you have a big contributing senior class and then some years you don't and it turns over, and it sounds like, youth or not, I mean they might be youthful in terms of their age or their class or whatever, but it sounds like you probably built a good bit of experience last year, I would think.
We did, and that's one thing. We our numbers have continuously gone up as far as
Yeah.
number of kids in our program, even though the win loss record has not been, I guess, attractive to say the least. So there's something here that the kids want to be a part of, and then that turns back to us as coaches to what can we do to help them, what can we do to make them more successful, put them in better positions to be successful. And yes, and that's going to help us having a year under our belt, because all those kids, we didn't lose any of those kids. None of them decided to quit that played. They're still around. They went to the off season or played other sports, and they're right back at it. And the issue that we sort of run into here is that they've really never been a part of winning, and so they do everything the way you ask them to do. They never bat an eye, but then it says something about these programs that, it's hard to win, but it says something about that culture, about just knowing how to win. And if we can ever figure that out, I mean, if I knew the answer, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I'd be doing making millions upon millions of dollars. But that's the $1 million question: is that when kids do everything right, what button do you push to help them figure out how to win? And so that's our job as coaches, to put them in those positions, and hopefully it all works out. But we are
Yeah.
excited about what's coming up this year, and really the next 2 to 3 years. We've got a good group of classes coming together that I think we can be relatively successful, over the
Yeah.
next years.
Yeah. Who are some guys like I know this is like even though you know your team, I know this is hard off the top, but like who are some guys that people can watch for? Who are some guys that are kind of standing out on both sides of the ball?
Well, offensively, we have a pretty explosive receiver. His name is Noah Stafford. He's a two-sport kid. Probably will go on and play college baseball somewhere, middle infielder. Really speed guy, hard worker. A lot of times we have what we call Ardmore fast, and then we have what we call everybody else fast. Well, he can compete with a lot of the everybody else fast, and he's a smaller kid. I mean, he's probably 5'7", 5'8", 160 pounds, but can run every route. Blocks well,
Wow.
very physical. um, is a good player for us. Um, Alex King, our quarterback's returning. He was a freshman last year. Started. We threw him in the mix. He's 6'2", 6'3". Got a lot of growing to do physically and mentally, but has a chance to be really, really special at the position when it's all said and done. And looking for him to, even though he's youthful in age, looking for him to be a leader. Um, we, I don't know. I guess I could go down the list there. We Cameron Jarrett's a guy that we got back on defense that was one of our leading tacklers last year that plays an outside linebacker position that has turned the corner from a leadership perspective. Braden Atkins plays DB for us. That'll be a junior. He played last year as a sophomore. You know, finally physically matured a little bit, so he's a lot more confident. I mean, I could go down a list of people. We like I said, we got 17 of our 22,
Wow.
starters returning. So, I don't want to leave people out, but I mean, we've got some kids that have played, some ball, and so we're really looking forward to seeing how that helps us, moving forward. Um,
Yeah.
we don't have any standout special kids. They're all special, but when we're talking about like collegiate level player, we don't have anybody that's ranked in the top 100 or that that
Sure.
kind of mess. But what we do is we have a really really good group of special kids that really and truly want to win, and it keeps me up at night trying to figure out ways that we can. So
Well, that's what it should be about at this level. I mean, there are plenty of high school programs across the country that they might have that top 100 guy, but they stink. The team isn't that good. That kid might put up 2,000 yards, but they go 2-8.
yep,
But you've got these guys buying in, and you've got it sounds like a rock solid group. That seems like a lot to look forward to over the next couple of years. Especially when you said your quarterback's got growing to do, and he's 6'3", and he was a freshman last year. That's
yeah,
like
yeah.
what?
Yeah, he's got a chance to be, the biggest thing I tell him is that, potential. I hate using the word potential because potential meant that you never aspired to whatever you could have been.
Sure.
But potentially he has a chance to be, really, really good at that position. He's very smart, very cerebral,
Mm.
runs really well. Um, you know, will probably grow to be 6'4", 6'5", based on, he hadn't turned
Sheesh.
16 yet. So he's got a chance, and he's a good leader for us. Last year being a freshman, it's hard for a freshman to step in the locker room and be like, "Hey, y'all follow me." But
Yeah.
but he's sort of taking ownership a little bit, and on the offensive side of the ball, and really looking forward to him leading the people because we have kids that will follow, good or bad. But if somebody will step up and lead in the right manner, it could be really really special around here. And I don't blow smoke a whole lot. I mean, I usually tell people how it is, and I really
Yeah.
feel like that things come together. We've got a chance to be relative to Ardmore football, be pretty special group that
That's
rolls through.
awesome. That's awesome. Let's talk about this schedule. Let's go non-region first. Tell me if any of these are incorrect, but it looks like August 23rd, y'all open up at West Limestone.
Yep.
August 30th at Clements. September 27th hosting Madison County,
Mm-hmm.
and then November 1st hosting Elkmont.
That's correct. Yes.
Tell me about those teams. I don't know a thing about them.
All right. So, here's one thing that's really cool about Limestone County is we still a lot of the teams still try to play each other to create, keep the rivalry. Just because there was a day where, and it wasn't too long ago, where just about every team in the county was about the same size school.
Hmm.
So they all, it wasn't like, well, we're 5A playing a 3A Elkmont or, 2A Tanner or whatever like that. It used to be where everybody was sort of the same size. Now some have grown and some haven't as much, but
Yeah,
keeping that rivalry is really, really cool because that's what the people at Ardmore, they grew up playing Elkmont, playing West, those teams that are big rivals for us that, it's a huge gate for us. It's when
sure.
you sit in this chair as a head coach, you think about gate receipts a lot. you,
Yeah.
you may not think about it as an assistant, but as a head coach, you think, okay, how can I get a big gate? we want to win. Don't get me wrong, but what's going to bring in some people,
Yeah.
and so we try to keep those rivalries, within the county. It's not too far of a travel for either side. We picked up. We'd played Clements when we first got to Ardmore. We had not played them the last couple of years. We got them back on the schedule, and we picked up Madison County this year, who has always been a really really good program. I mean, it'll be a tough test for us. I know they had a down year last year, but it's really one of those that will help us them and any of our non-region really, but especially them in West Limestone being 4A schools will help us with our, region, with our 5A region.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be good competition for us. Last year we
Yeah.
played, last 2 years, I don't know who did the scheduling, but we picked up West Morgan the last 2 years. And that was the stupidest thing that I'd ever done in my life. Um, so, and my best friend who I coached with at Athens, Drew Phillips, is head coach at West. And I thought, well, that'd be pretty cool to play them. Yeah, that wasn't cool at all. And beating our freaking eyes in. So, when when I sat down and did the scheduling this off season, I had several people tell me, "Hey, if you schedule West Morgan, we won't come to a game." And I was like, "Okay, we'll learn.
They're
We'll
out.
learn from our mistakes."
That's funny. All right, let's talk about the region because there was a little shakeup, right? Like y'all went from 5A Region 8 to 5A Region 7, but there's
Mhm.
a lot of the same teams, right? Like
Right.
I'll run through these real quick. So Region 7 in 5A now, I'll just go alphabetical. Ardmore, East Limestone, Fairview, Lawrence County, Priceville, Russellville, and West Point.
Yes.
What do you make of the region?
Well, like you said, it didn't change much. Originally, when they first sent it out, when the state sent it out, Brooks was in there. We had Priceville and which Brewer had been in there before, and so I can't remember how. Anyway, Brooks was in our region
Yeah,
to begin with, and then they had the miscount or whatever it was, so Brooks dropped back down to 4A, and then they moved Fairview back in. Fairview was in our region. Fairview and Brewer both were in our region last 2 years, and
okay.
Brewer went east with Arab and them. And then they brought Fairview back in. They had gone, I think, south to like the Hayden region. I don't know what
Yeah.
region it is, but um, and they had moved them back in. So really, the only team that we're not familiar with or that we haven't played would be Priceville. Everybody else has been the same for the last 2 years. Have been on our schedule. So in the end, we exchanged Price or Brewer for Priceville.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Fairview last year
Mm-hmm.
trying to see more because where I'm at, we cover mostly 6A and 7A in the Birmingham
Right.
area.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to get to the like I'll cover a lot of Briarwood. They just dropped back to 5. John Carroll's 5. And that's the game I went to last year in the playoffs was I wanted to see something different. Um, don't get me wrong. Hey, you give me a Hewitt Trustful Hoover game, I'll be there.
Right.
But it was one of those weeks where I was like, I had time for a little bit of a road trip from where I'm at, and I was like, I want to see somebody different. I want to check off a stadium I haven't been to. So I went to that John Carroll at Fairview game,
Mm-hmm.
and you talk about high school football in its purest form, man. And I had a blast. Like I probably left. I mean, games kicks off at 7. I probably left the house at 1:30. Made a road trip, took back roads. I went through where'd I go through? I went through Aniana, through
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland, Alabama. Stopped at a nice produce stand, picked me up some stuff. Went and saw, just through Blount County and went all the way up into Coleman that way. And when I got there, I was like, yes, this is what it's about right here. So I feel like that 4A 5A is
Mm-hmm.
is that's where I would like to live if I could,
It's you get to see a lot of cool places because there's a lot of those places, and football means a lot to a lot of places, but
Sure.
as you drop down in classification a little bit, you get more of that small town feel where everybody went to school there, nobody ever leaves the city, their kids go to school there, and so that's what they do on Friday night. You go to a
Yeah.
football game, and then the atmosphere is awesome. And that
Yeah.
we traveled to Fairview. It was really the first time I had ever been to Fairview this past season, and talking about a cool setup. down in the
Yeah,
hole, and it was
yeah.
it
They,
was a really really cool place to have a high school football game.
yeah. Did they come out with like they had like purple strobe lights going, like the stadium went dark and the players like enter through this like just purple lights and stuff. It was
They did all that, and they wore they're more of a yellow than they are gold, and they wore yellow jerseys and yellow pants and with purple helmets. And I thought, yeah, this is going to be real fun. They brought out the motivational jerseys or whatever. It's always nice when you play somebody that brings out black jerseys or something that's special. You're like, yeah, they're about to beat our eyes in. Uh,
well, as an Alabama fan, I liked when Georgia and people would bring out the black
oh
jerseys
yeah,
because,
hmm
I won't say what Scott Cochran said back then,
yeah,
but
something
you
about a
know,
funeral, wasn't it?
something about a funeral. What kind of like I know for especially at the high school level, it can
Mhm.
change year to year based on your personnel and that kind of thing. But what's Ardmore style football with you as head coach? What do y'all like to do?
Well, I don't mean to sound cliche, but I mean we're going to run the football. I mean that's and I don't really consider myself an old school guy, but I was 20 plus years as a defensive coordinator, and I'm a firm believer that we're going to run the football on offense to set things up. We're going to stop the run on defense and make the high school quarterback, the ones that we see. And I mean, we see some good ones. It's not a knock on anybody, but I want to
Sure.
see you have to throw it 20 to 25 times a game to beat us and consistently, complete passes and all that, because you don't see that a lot in our level. Now you start working south to Birmingham in the 5A level, you're going to get a little bit of that. But in North Alabama, there's great kids. We're going to play 2 or 3 schools that's going to have a great quarterback, but can they put
Yeah.
all the pieces together? So I mean that's I hate to sound that way, but that's the brand of football we're going to get. Now we're not going to, it's not 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but I mean, like we understand that we're not going to sling it around 40 times a game. Probably not even going to spread you out a whole lot. We're going to try to run the football, because we've got some, we have a huge offensive line, which is always who Ardmore has had. Big old country boys. They're not as country as what they used to be. I wish they built a little bit more hay, but big old country boys, and we're not the most athletic, so we're going to try to do what fits us, and we know year after year we're going to have big linemen, and not going to be very fast, but we have to play with the hand that we're dealt, and so we're going to try to run the football to set things up offensively, stop the run on defense, and force you into situations that you're uncomfortable with in a high school game.
Yeah, no, I love that style, especially as someone who covers games on Friday nights. Like, if I get a game where I know both teams are well versed in the pass game, I'm like, I'm going to be pushing deadline tonight because that game's going to take longer.
Right.
I remember this has been, oh gosh, this was probably 2011, 2012, something like that, where it was a clash of styles, right? This was Spain Park under Chip Lindsey,
Mm-hmm.
Nick Mullins quarterbacking, NFL now quarterback Nick Mullins quarterbacking, and I'm like, and they're at home, and they were playing Pelham, and Pelham was running like I don't know that they threw the ball 3 times in that game, and their offensive line dominated. Their running backs dominated. They went in there and beat Spain Park. It was like 42-17 or something like that. So you've got all those points, but they did it all in the run that
Mm-hmm.
usually my deadline's probably around 11 p.m. And I think I had that story in, y'all's game's in 9:15 ish, usually something like that. I think my story was in at like 10:02. It was like I'm used to like getting home like, or leaving the parking lot of a stadium like everybody's already gone and I've got an easy ride out and it's really late. This was like I was kind of leaving with all the students and there was still actually some traffic, and getting to getting to 280 from Valleydale and all that. And I was like, I could cover this Pelham team every single week. Like I'm actually gonna get some sleep tonight.
Well, all the places in Ardmore don't close till 10 on Fridays because they know the football game's going to be over with prior to 10 o'clock. So they stay open so they can get some business because they know it's going to be over pretty quick.
Smart. That's
Yeah.
smart. That's smart. I should ask you this at the start, but we've talked a little bit about, kind of 5A, and you talking about
Mhm.
the quarterbacks in 5A and that kind of thing. You've been at the 6A level at Athens. When you were at Sparkman, that would have been still when they were 6A, right?
Correct. We were the largest school in the state while I was there.
Yeah. So you've been at those levels. What are some of the similarities and differences in 5A ball and 6A ball?
Well, the biggest thing, the biggest adjustment I had to make from Athens was, we played in a pretty tough region, and then always matched up with the Clay Chalkvilles of the world,
Yeah.
which is a completely different animal. When you get into the Birmingham region, I mean, the biggest differences that I see is that, I came from Athens having to have, you had to have a lot of different, I was a secondary coach while being the
Yeah.
coordinator for many years. And, you had to have all these different coverages. You couldn't stay in the same thing. Somebody would pick you apart, and you had to
Right.
adjust to, a large amount of different, offenses, whether it be, somebody running, with a sniffer set, 2x1 sniffer, or they're spread and they're empty every set, or maybe they're, tight ends. You had a variety of offenses that you saw.
Yeah.
And so you get to our level in North Alabama, and I know it changes as you move further south, but in North Alabama, you don't see a whole lot of spread out offenses. I mean, I'm not saying teams are double wing and running single wing like Fife, and
Right.
but you don't see a lot of people, going trips or 2x2 or whatever and then a lot of times you whatever you see, that's what you get. Like, I mean, if a
Yeah.
team's going to run power counter, but whatever, like, that's what you see. It is what it
Yeah.
is, because a lot of teams we play are in the same cycle as what we are. Their kids really never change year after year. They have different kids, but they're always sort of built the same way. And
Sure.
so you establish a system, you adjust, but yet when it comes down to the foundation, you're going to be the same type group year after year after year. And that's really the biggest difference that I saw coming from those two, because when I was at Spartman, we were matched up with Hoover and stuff, Spain Park in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different world. In 5A, it's a little bit, matter of fact, from a coordinator perspective, it's not easier, but it's a little bit more simplified. And that's not a knock on anybody. It's just people do what they feel like their kids can
Yeah.
do. Similarities. You really get, the passion is the same. It doesn't drop any. Kids
Yeah.
understand, I guess, coaches understand the level that they're at, and it doesn't matter that level. Like, they adjust, and the passion is still there. It may even be more so than what it is at some places on the, upper levels. I don't know, but um,
I would think so.
I mean, uh, you still got to coach football. You still got to block. You still got to tackle. I mean, uh, I hate to say that's a similarity, but that don't change either.
Uh-uh.
But it was probably there were probably a lot more differences than similarities. I would guess I should say, moving from those two places to to here, and it you got to adjust. You got to adjust what you're doing too much because you felt like you had to at one place and you don't really have to here, and so that's part of what's on our shoulders as coaches, is figuring those things out.
Yeah. What are the I'm gonna ask you another kind of cliche coach speak question, but um what are kind of the goals this fall, and how do you kind of, as a head coach, do you kind of set the goals and say, all right, guys, here's what we're doing? Is it a player led thing? Do y'all just take it week to week? Like, how do you kind of approach, like, guys, here's where we want to go, here's how we get there?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, and this may be different. I don't. We don't really have team goals. We don't sit down and set them with a. I have a leadership group, but we don't really sit down and talk about team goals. We don't talk about player goals a lot. Now, I say all that to say this: we are a goal oriented team, and what I mean by that is, I ask our kids daily to give us everything you got, and outside of that, that's our goal. And I hate to sound like that, but we don't have hey, let's make the playoffs. Hey, my philosophy is, I think that's an understood. I don't think
Yeah.
that everybody wants to make the playoffs. Everybody wants to win X number of games. Everybody wants to do what and I mean, I realize there are places that a lot of places put them on a wall, and there's I think some merit to that. Don't get me wrong, but here, if we focus on the day by day, so our goal as a team and as individual players is how good can we be today, and then that becomes our goal. Like we have to
Yeah,
reach that certain standard every day. We our kids know our standard; they know the expectation daily. So, what did I do to reach that today? And that's my goal. And we feel like, as collectively as coaches and our kids are buying into that, that if we can be the best that we can be, then that's all we got. Coaches bring it every day, players bring it every day. If that's good enough, it's good enough. If not, guess what? It wasn't meant to be. And I think goals can get very lofty from time to time. Not saying that's a bad thing. I think kids can throw some lofty stuff out there that creates some individualism, which can
sure.
help. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think sometimes that becomes too much of the focus. And so we just
Yeah,
sort of say, hey, every day, how good can you be today? Did you reach the standard today? And then that we sort of take it step by step like that. And that
yeah.
may be it's a little bit different way to think about it, maybe. But that's sort of how we function.
No, I like it because I mean I forget who. I'm sure it's multiple people, but there's someone I listen to that talks about kind of the same kind of thing, like not necessarily a goal mindset, but kind of that growth mindset kind of thing. And it's whatever your focus is. If it's me writing something, obviously, if it's you coaching football, it's tomorrow the whole 1% better thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get a little bit better every day and just keep stacking. And I would imagine focusing like that, having your guys focus like that, would kind of keep them from thinking too far down the road too. Like,
Right.
you've got it, kind of so granular that it's not even necessarily like every week we want to go 1-0. Like I know that's a cliche thing, but it's hey, this day in practice I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to come back and do better at this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time Friday night comes, I've put in that work and let the chips fall where they may.
Right. And I think too, a lot of the mindset, not having a lot of success at Ardmore, the tradition is not there, and maybe I should release it a little bit more as far as allowing them to do some more lofty goals, but you know every kid's going to put, hey, reach the playoffs. Okay, well that's fantastic. Like I want to too. Don't get me wrong. Like let's go, let's take it a step further than just reaching the playoffs, or whatever. But like if we don't know how to reach the playoffs, if we don't know what it takes day by day, then why do we create that goal? Let's don't put the cart before the horse. We know it's an understood that that's a goal of ours here. We got to take baby steps to it. But every day, what are you doing to reach that goal? Everybody knows that, and
Yeah.
so that's sort of the stance that we've taken a little bit, here instead of having things posted all over, or having kids have their own. And I'm good with it. Like I don't have a problem with that. It's not that I'm not saying that people that do that that's crazy. It's
Yeah.
just that's how it works here, and that's where we got to be the best. Is where our feet are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're trying to you control what you can control, right?
That's
That's
right.
it. So let's wrap with this. I've been asking every coach this. What's something that you're looking forward to most about this fall in particular?
Uh, the rewards of our kids and their hard work. Um, I'm anxious to see them put because it's been a little different this time, and a good different. Like our off
Yeah.
season's been different, our leadership has been different, the growth in the weight room from a physical perspective has been different. The way in which we went through spring this time for the first time I'd ever done a spring practice since probably 2017 or 18. And they didn't have any idea. No kid on our team had ever gone through a spring. So it's like, what are we doing? Are we, you
Right.
mean you can go full pads day one? I'm like, yeah, you can go full pads day one of spring, no rules, but then you have to wait in the fall, 35,000 days before you can go in the pads. But, um, so I'm really excited about seeing them, I guess, the fruits of their labor, like all the hard work that they put in. their willingness to adapt, their willingness to change, their willingness to adjust, the willingness to say, hey, 1-9 really, really stinks. I don't really know what it's like to be a whole lot better, but I know that 1-9 stinks. So what can I do to make that better
Yeah.
in mid-February, not just early August? And so I'm really, really excited to see how our kids respond in those situations. Like, I mean, I'm getting chill bumps right now thinking about it. Um, because that's why we do what we do. We put the work in to where then they can get rewarded, and I want to see them succeed. Every coach says it, but I'm going to have another team next year, whether it's here or somewhere else. These seniors, this is the last time, or this football team will be the last time that it's ever together as is. And so I really want this. I'm really excited to see this group and see what all they put in and the results of that. Because there's some special kids around here, and I really want to see them be successful, and be rewarded for their hard work. I wish I could twinkle my nose and it happened, but we all know that can't happen. So, but that's what I'm really looking forward to. I mean, I could say wins and losses, I could say this game, that game, but truthfully speaking, I'm really excited to see, what is it like? We talked about it this morning. We're going to have success. I really believe that. So how do you handle that? And I'm really looking forward to see how our kids handle success, because I think it's coming. And how do they handle it? We've handled adversity a little bit, but how
Yeah.
do we handle success? And I think that's as important as anything else is. And so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well said. I mean, like, obviously, I won't get to cover any of y'all's games unless somehow we get into 5A playoffs and, there's a Briarwood Ardmore or a John Carroll Ardmore somehow, that kind of thing. But I'll definitely be interested to follow this thing along. It sounds like everybody is, even though, like you've talked about, there's a 1-9 season, and a lot of times rosters and mindsets can go a certain way when that happens. And it sounds like like you said, everybody's back, and it sounds like everybody's pulling in the right direction. So I'll be certainly interested to follow it week to week this fall. And I wish you guys all the luck in the world in 5A, and hope it's a great year.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys covering high school sports. I know that it's it's a hard work that you guys do as well. So we appreciate getting the opportunity to sell our program a little bit and talk about our kids some. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, Coach, and we'll talk again in the near future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
You too.